All right, welcome to another episode of the Raptors Over Everything podcast. My name is Amit Mann. Joining me today to preview the rest of the players on the Toronto Raptors. We did an episode yesterday, and now we got another one today. Is Yasmin Douale. Thank you so much for joining me. How you doing? How are
Thanks for having me.
Yes, you're going to be helping us out throughout the NBA season with our Raptors coverage. One of the many people that we're bringing on board. So excited to have you. Early thoughts on the Toronto Raptors, just like the vibe. I mean, they're back in Toronto. They're so excited. You can kind of tell, like Malachi Flynn's like, it's kind of cool to not be, in a ballroom anymore for practice. Like the facility's so nice. So the vibes right now, how are they?
It looks like everyone is just excited. Like we saw the clips of everyone dancing over at practice and everything. So I feel like everyone's in good spirits, just being in the city, and it hasn't even begun yet. We haven't seen the at capacity arenas and the fans that are going to be enjoying the show finally. But it's already started on a good foot. So I'm excited to see like what it's like when the season actually begins as well.
I was talking to Iman about this the other day, and she's kind of in the same boat as myself and probably a lot of other people, that people are a little bit too down on the Toronto Raptors because while, they've lost Kyle Lowry and, last season was tumultuous. It was bad in every single way, but, top to bottom, their roster is better. And I would think that, playing in Toronto will at least contribute to them having a better season. Do you think people are a little bit too down on them?
Yeah. I agree 100%. I think that last season left a bad taste in everyone's mouth, and then you couple it with the that series against the Celtics. Like it was just a series of bad, unfortunate events happening to them in succession. So I think that it kind of left everyone with a bad taste in their mouth, including fans. And that I think that once they start playing here, all of the things will align, and I feel like they're probably going to overachieve as well. So I think that they're going to endear themselves to the fans once again really easily, I think. So although people are down right now, I give it like 2 weeks into the season where it's going to flip.
2 weeks, that's all it's going to take. Well, yes. We're also excited
14 days,
OG
a fortnight. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. Let's start with another player that we're really excited about. The whole fan base is, and he's also the most beloved. Well, is Pascal or OG more beloved? Probably over the past little while. Yeah, now
OG is everyone's baby.
Yeah, he is. Let's start with OG. All right. So last season, towards the tail end of it, he definitely took a few strides forward. Maybe it was just opportunity, maybe it was development throughout the season, but the Norm Powell trade happened, and the Raptors kind of just went all in on trying to develop players like him and other players on the bench and giving guys a different look and more playing time and higher usage. And he took advantage of it. Right. Oh, yeah. And it was surprising in some ways, but I think with OG, we've been taught that you have to kind of expect the unexpected with him because he's just that kind of player. Although he's a little bit jerky, a little bit awkward in his movements, he gets the job done. And his 3-point shooting has been probably one of the biggest areas of growth for him. And now he's getting into this phase where he's going to be given the ball more. He's going to be able to create more off the dribble. He's going to be asked to take more shots. So what do you think is a fair expectation to get from OG this season?
I think that the fair expectation would be to see him, I guess like it would be less superficial. So I don't think fans should hone in on the box score, but I think that what they should do is see if he is able to string together all the skills he's been developing over the years. So we've seen him improve his shot. We've seen him improve his self-creation the last couple of years. He's kept his defense at a high standard. If anything, he's improved as an on-ball defender, as a team defender. So I think what fans should expect to see is him being able to like simultaneously show all these skills on the court. So I think that would be the fair expectation for OG. I think that to assign him, like I expect 20 points per game because he was averaging around 19 when Norm left. I think that's setting yourself up for disappointment, but to expect him to do to continue to take that kind of steady growth year after year that he's demonstrated.
If you put a number on it, in terms of what he will, I know you said you don't want to, but if you were going to, it was 15.9 points per game last year. And obviously, in the tail end, like I mentioned, it was more closer to 18. So what do you think, at the season's end, where is he going to be in points per game as a guess?
Yeah. Well, I like setting myself up for disappointment. So I'm
Don't we
gonna
all?
say that I'm gonna say that hmm. Yeah, I think that the Norm trade was probably a good signal for where he would land
Yeah.
after perhaps the full season of play. So I think around 18 to 19 points per game would be a fair
Mm.
assessment for OG. I think that I I would say 20, but I feel like that would require um I don't think it depends on what type of player he'll end up being. So I think that some players are the type that will demand the ball. I don't know
Yeah.
what OG's personality type is as a star, as a fringe all-star, which I think that he might develop into next season. So we'll see if he's a guy who will be the type of player to take a back seat to Pascal and take over when necessary, kind of like the role Pascal fulfilled when he was playing alongside Kawhi.
Yeah.
Then around 18 points per game, or 16 to 18 or 16 to 20 is fair. But if he's going to be like a full-on co-star, it just depends on how the season pans out.
I don't think you're setting yourself for failure with the prediction like that. I think that's fair to
I
say.
can't be disappointed with OG. It's OG.
It's impossible, right? He could have like a string of games where he gets like 5 points, and people are still like, "Yeah, but I mean, he's such a nice guy, and he's so
OVO
cool."
Owl. Did you see it?
Yeah, right. Oh, he's adorable. I was thinking about what would be fair, and then I started thinking about other player types that would kind of resemble, his body type, his skill set, and hear me out with this. But Andre Iguodala came to mind, and looking at Andre's last season or second last season with the 76ers, because then he went to, or it wasn't second last, but maybe he's 24 years old in 07-08. And Andre averaged 19.9 points per game. His field goal percentage was 45%. He averaged 5 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, and almost a block. And then, obviously the numbers went down, and then he went to Golden State, and then he won championships and yada, yada, yada. But that was kind of like peak Andre Iguodala at that time.
Yeah.
And I think it's fair to say that OG is going to be better than Andre, right? And that's like a hell of a thing to say, because Andre was an incredible player in the NBA. And now we are saying OG Anunoby is going to be that much better. But next season, I could see something like that kind of happening, because he does have a sneaky upside with his passing. He's better than people probably think he is. And the rebounding, Andre was at 5.4. I would prefer to see it around 7. Maybe that's way too optimistic, but I think, especially we're going to get into it in a few seconds, but the rebounding has been an issue for the Toronto Raptors. A lot of it is just because of their style of play. It's very aggressive.
Years.
So, no question. But it's the style, right? That's what Nick wants to do. Even when they had like Mark and Serge, like you had 7-footers there, and they still sucked at rebounding. So I think that is going to last. That's going to be an issue, and it's going to consistently be that. But getting that to around 7, more defensive rebounds, and I think that'd be very valuable for the Toronto Raptors and also for his career. Like, he should be a better rebounder.
Yeah. I think it's just about, I think it's about opportunity, positioning. It hasn't really been his role to grab them, but on the times where he's been required to do so, or it's something that coaching is stressed, say they were especially thin at big. So you would see OG have those random nights where he's grabbing every board. But I'd like to see it on a consistent level, what it looks like. I think that's what's exciting about this season. It just gives us more data to work with when it comes to OG.
Oh, we need more. We need any information we can get on OG, because he's certainly not going to tell us anything.
Not going to tell us anything.
It was funny, like last season, we were talking like, oh, he's coming out of his shell. And that was him like saying 10 words versus 5.
But oh, he's really opening up.
That's his version of opening up, is saying 10 words instead of 5. If you could pinpoint an area of his offense that you'd like to see him take the biggest leap, what would it be?
It would probably be his handle, because I think that would just string together all of the skills we've seen him develop. So like that self-creation, the shooting, if he was able to get a handle to string these things together, it would just open up so many plays for him. We can see him operate in the pick and roll at various levels on the court. We can see him, I was mentioning this the other day, but if he was to act as that kind of release valve for the lead scorer on the team, it would be really great. And that's what is so awesome about having that opportunity. It's like a happy accident to have that opportunity in the beginning of the season without Pascal, so that he can get his feet wet, learn how to operate with the burden of the offense placed on him. So Yeah, I think that would be the thing that I'd want to see improve, or and I think that he has been working on it the past couple years consistently. So with more reps, it's naturally something that's going to improve.
Because we are yet to see a game, all we're going off of is YouTube runs and whatever clips that the Raptors are posting. And they posted something the other day, and it was an OG dribble combination where, I mean, it just happened very fast. It was through the legs, it was behind the back, it was a step back shot from around the free throw line, and I was just like, ooh, okay.
Yeah,
And
what's
obviously, like,
nice is that sometimes when players who don't typically handle the ball in these runs, you see the ball like heading to the left
yeah.
and the right. Like it's like an NBA player is easily going to pick that off. But it was a very contained handle, which I wanted to see, and that's like promising already.
No question. And you mentioned the dribbling. I think that's or this handle. That's something that it has to improve. But I would also look at his balance. And
Mhm.
it's kind of an odd thing to say because he's obviously very, I mean, coordinated for his terms, right? I mean, that body type and that size, like there's going to be some awkwardness perhaps, but when he gets underneath the basket and he's trying to find ways to finish and he's made his move and it didn't work. And now he's like, what do I do now? He tends to like kind of fade a little bit and he's
Yeah.
not really going up strong. And that's natural because you're uncomfortable. You have guys barreling down on you. It would be great to see him have a little bit more composure in that area. And also, so balance kind of goes with that as well, is that you're composed, you're staying strong on your feet, and then you're going back up and you're giving it your best go. And then also his free throw shooting. It would be cool to see that go up because it should. He's going to be in the paint a lot and maybe just
Mhm.
needs to spend some time and get some respect from the officials. God knows Fred VanVleet's not going to get it. So
Yeah.
maybe OG does. And then just that alone is going to help him average more points per game. What are your thoughts on OG not being as big a part of the defense? And when I say that, I mean, he's not going to be the guy that's constantly guarding the other team's best player,
Mhm.
small forward, power forward, whatever the case may be, because, they have so much more length now. And there are other players on the roster that could probably help out in that area. And I would like to see, as we've seen with other star players, that they conserve their energy for the offensive end, right? So you're not going to put them on the best defensive player, maybe, towards the end of games and high leverage situations and star players, things like that. If a dude's cooking you, then you got to put OG on him. But
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on something like that?
I feel like it's not Nick Nurse's style to
Drill him into
ease
the ground,
that
right?
pressure. Yeah,
play,
I think he
play
will.
him 42 minutes, play
I've
both ends
seen
of the
him
court
plenty of
and smile
times.
about
Like
it.
this is a guy who expected Kawhi to be the lead scorer and defend Giannis for a whole series. Like this is,
Yeah.
if you happen to be the best defender and you're expected to produce offensively, he's gonna make you do both. Like I don't think it computes for him that there might be energy expended on that end and might affect this end. Like I think that he thinks that if you have the potential to be like
Yeah.
a star player, you should be able to carry both responsibilities. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see OG defending the best players and being expected to score at a high level. If I just don't see. I think we've seen even Pascal in situations where he's expected to guard AD and score against AD. So
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to let up when it comes to OG either. And I think OG is the type of player who's going to want the challenge. We've
Yeah.
seen him demand, if a player's hot, he will say that he wants to guard this player. So I think that he has the right mentality to not, it's not a situation I think where you're talking about a player who is perhaps a veteran who needs less energy expenditure on one end. So I would expect him to do both.
Damn, he's going to be so tired. I'm
Yeah,
tired thinking about playing the high usage on one end and then the most important defensive player on the other end. Maybe also Fred VanVleet could be that guy too. Anything else on OG, or should we move on to the other beloved one?
No, I think that's everything on OG. It's just we don't have that much data to work on, like I mentioned. So that's what is most exciting about the upcoming season. We'll have a season of OG as a top producer on the team. So that's what's most exciting.
Speaking of top producers, so Pascal, bit of a turbulent year last year. Statistically, I mean, I think it's fair to say that he actually wasn't that bad, but it was the missed game winners. It was, Yeah, the little rift he had with Nick Nurse, it's the losing. And he's mentioned that he's never lost like that in his entire career. Fred VanVleet said the
Mhm.
same thing too. That's why last year was so much of an outlier. But a lot of people, many people, not myself exactly, I'm not sure about you, but they got down on him. They felt like he had regressed. He's taking steps back. He's not the guy, yada, yada, yada. Are you glass half full or glass half empty on Pascal going forward in this as a max player?
I'm glass half full because I think that he's already earned the max contracting. I think that's a
Yeah.
non-discussion. Being the number two producer on a championship team, like I think he's already a proven player in that sense. And also, I think what is something we can take away is that last season seemed a lot worse than it actually was. He's actually improved in a lot of areas, as fans know. He's improved as a playmaker. I consider him to be a good playmaker, not just above average. He apparently couldn't dribble with both hands because of his shoulder injury that was lingering for longer season than we even anticipated. So it might have affected his shot too. And his shooting is what took the biggest downturn. And one thing that I found promising was that even though he was continually disappointed with the outcome of his game winner attempts, he would still demand the ball at the end of the game and be expected by Nick Nurse to take that opportunity and do it anyways. And he was doing it the entire season whenever there was a crunch time moment. He wasn't shying away from his shot attempts. He wasn't shying away from those moments. So if there's anything we could take away, it means that when he's entering next season, healthier in Toronto, possibly happier with the situation, he would still be taking the same opportunities he did last season and hopefully having a better result because of all of the variables that are kind of working in his favor now.
I want to proceed with Happy Pascal, but looking at last season, all those game winners that were missed, the one that sticks out the most was the one against the Timberwolves, where he missed like that point blank layup, and then after he missed it, you could hear him say, "Oh my god!"
Like what?
Because he was snakeman. It was insane.
We reached the point in that season last season where he would miss it. I think it was against the Jazz. He'd miss it and start laughing, and then the team would start laughing too because it became like a running joke. Like, how does this happen? Like, not even a bad NBA player would make like 40-something% of their shot attempts. So there was obviously like some bad like energy or just something not working.
Oh, there was lots of that in Florida. Lots of
there was something off. So it just became almost comical towards the end. Even fans were kind of like, he's gonna do it. And then he misses like, hey.
I remember that shot too. I forgot about that one. It was kind of like, broke a shot clock. It was going down. It was a deep three too. Like it was, well behind the actual 3-point line, in and out. And he's just like, what do you do? And that was when they were trying to find their season and rally it. And that's when everyone was healthy after COVID and healthy-ish because all of them were still feeling the effects of it, but they're all playing back together. But yeah, that was a wild one. I think Pascal's in a much better spot now. And I'm basing this off of Media Day. And also that he's opened up the comments on his IG now, which was a really nice thing to see. That to me, I mean, it's maybe a small thing to some people, but to me, that shows like he's reached a level of acceptance with how he's going to be perceived by media, fans, things like that. And there's a comfort with who he is. And he was always been that person that said that, I'm going to keep on improving. I'm going to keep on doing my thing and I'm just going to keep on growing. And the max contract and the expectations, and, some of those were put on by Raptors management, Nick Nurse. I remember my former colleague, Will Liu, he had an interview with Nick Nurse and Nick said like, it's his next step is being the guy. Right. And that was after Kawhi had left and in that offseason. So the expectations were there and put on him and things didn't work out. Right.
Yeah.
He was instantly being compared to Kawhi in the season that he had. And that was completely unfair. Like you can't compare Pascal to Kawhi. It's not reasonable. And so now looking at where he is with things, he was smiling a lot on Media Day. The vibes again were incredible. I'm saying vibes a lot, but they really were.
It's the perfect word.
That's what it is. And like I did a compilation because it really stuck out to me that how much he was smiling. I did a compilation on the YouTube or the Yahoo channel and our Twitter and our IG and stuff like that. And it was just him constantly smiling. And Doug Smith asked him a question about that New York Times article where he had talked about not really feeling like he was given, the keys to being the guy because Kyle was there and stuff like that. And he just had this like little smirk. He's like, here we go. But he wasn't running from it. He was like, that's going to come. It's okay.
Yeah.
Smile.
Yeah.
So he's in a much better spot. That I think it's going to help him. Even that alone is going to help him be in a better spot when he does come back.
Mhm.
Um, how do you think it's going to impact him missing that first 6 weeks, 7 weeks, whatever it's going to be?
I would think that in the beginning he would um perhaps have like an adjustment period, adjusting to the new play, like the new elements to the team. But what's interesting is that these guys have a lot of experience without Kyle on the court. Kyle, especially towards the last couple of years, I feel like he's had chunks of games where he's missed a little part of the season here and there, and they've been able to just really maturely kind of play in his style without him present on the court. So using the tools that they've learned from the mentorship that he's provided,
Yeah.
and being able to translate it on the court. And they have a pretty impressive win-loss record without Kyle present. So I think that it'll be an adjustment period. I wouldn't be surprised if there was losing. There's, with Pascal and OG eating up a lot of the usage, there's still Scotty Barnes, who has to find his place on the team. So what's going to be interesting is seeing how these three players, who are probably going to be, even I didn't even mention Fred, but Fred, OG, and Pascal are going to be the top offensive producers, but they're going to have to find a way to incorporate Scotty into the fold. So it's going to be, I think there's going to be a challenging period but Scotty's probably the best rookie to deal with that. So I feel like
he's dance through it. He's just going to dance through it.
He's dance through it, smile through it. He's gonna be fine. Like he's gonna find his spot pretty quickly, I feel like. But yeah, there's gonna be an adjustment period, is what I mean.
I gotcha. With Pascal and kind of where he's going to be, it's interesting that he had said at the tail end of last season, I think it was during the locker room cleanout, that he kind of found that he had bulked up a little bit too much heading into the previous season, and that after COVID, he lost weight because that's one of the side effects of COVID. And he said that he kind of felt like it more himself more, that he was at a weight that he was more comfortable. He's a bit more agile, a bit faster. And that's another thing that impacted his season, right? When you're adjusting to new strength, new abilities, more muscle, it's going to impact your shooting for sure. And also just your running, like it's going to everything. Right.
Yeah.
And him getting back to kind of the weight that he is comfortable at, I think is going to help him quite a bit. And then just, is there an area that you'd like to see him kind of make some strides in this season when he does come back?
I would like to see his shooting return to what it was. I think that would be the best improvement for him.
Yeah.
And we know that when Pascal has his shooting, he already has his self-creation. He's improved his mid-range last season. It was a thing that came out and it looked good consistently last season. So we know that he can look like a straight up top 20 player when all of the, all guns are blazing. So I would just hope that his shooting would improve and he would start to look like himself. That's like all you can ask for with Pascal, because as is, when he is himself, which he wasn't in the bubble, which he wasn't in Tampa, he's one of the best players in the league. It's why he was an all-star. It's why he was all NBA. It's why he was, every accolade was being thrown at him left, right, and center, because when everything looks like, when everything's right, he looks like one of the best players in the NBA.
No doubt about it. Similar kind of thing for me. I want to see that shooting get back to where it was. He averaged 22.9 points per game last year, or maybe a little bit south of that. And it was a bit of a dip down from the previous season. But if he shoots like 29% from three, and he gets that, his highest, exactly right. And so that mid range too, that's like the area that I'm sneakily hoping that improves quite a bit, because like some of the best scorers in the NBA, if you look at them, they're mid range kings. And having that, it's probably the most difficult shot to make, because it's a lot more traffic around you, and you have to use like your handle a little bit more to create that space, like a DeMar, a Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant, CJ McCollum. In some ways, like these are guys that just have that ability, and they work on the mechanics, and they're at a high level at that point. And once you have it, like you become a completely different player. That may not be something that he adds this season, or maybe it's something that happens over the next few years, but that would be a huge difference maker. It's going to make his offense so much easier. But the Raptors just having better players around him this year is going to help him so much more. You mentioned the assists, like they could have been a lot higher last year if there were better players around him, right?
A lot of, I swear, if we just had someone else outside of Baines alongside Pascal, I feel like that was like 2 assists per game just thrown out, dropped. Like, oh God.
Well, that's a great pivot because let's touch on the guy that is replacing Aaron Baines, Kem Birch. So he signed a new contract with the Toronto Raptors. He pulled the DeMar and said that I'm not going to listen to any other contracts, no phone calls, no nothing. I want to be a Toronto Raptor. And they're like, okay, we'll bring you back. In his time with the Raptors, though, so we are talking, was it 19 games? He averaged 30 minutes per game, 11.9 points, 7.6 rebounds, almost a steal, and 1.2 blocks. So that's 19 game sample size right there. And that earned him a new contract. So I guess, were you surprised that he was able to perform that way last season?
I was, yeah. I kind of knew what Ken was about, but I feel like he's solid. That's the thing about Ken Burge. He's solid. He's the type of guy who will bring it consistently on a nightly basis. He has a job on the court. He's going to go and he's going to do that job, which I think is like in need in the Raptors roster. There's a lot of like potential and hypotheticals that we're talking about with every player, but Ken Burge is going to do what he has to do. I feel the same way about Yuta Watanabe. Like, they're these guys who come on the court to do a job, you know what I mean? So they need as many players to fulfill that on the roster, considering everything that we're talking about. So Kem is so solid. Like I want to see. I saw them challenge him as a corner 3 shooter, which is not something I feel like he was doing throughout his career. So seeing him just immediately he came in, he was being put in those corners to stretch the floor. So I want to see if that's a consistent thing that comes up and if he can become a sustained threat from the corners, which would just, change his game so much.
Absolutely. And he had mentioned something like that, at the end of last season, saying that he wants to become a better 3-point shooter. And again, during media day, he said that he's been working on that. He's been working on his push shot, being able to score in that pick and roll situation with Fred VanVleet. Fred never really be able to get that chemistry going with Serge when they were together, but being able to figure out something between him and Kem would be a huge asset, whether it's rolling or even if, maybe it's the push shot or it's a mid-range shot, whatever the case may be, it's going to change who the Raptors are going to be this year. So in some ways, Kem Birch is actually critical to what the Raptors do. They have been pushing this positionless aspect of their games, and this is their new ideology that they're going to be going forward with. So there could be a lot of scenarios where he's not on the floor, or maybe he's playing 20 minutes sometimes and it's 30 and then it's 15, who knows, because some other players have stepped up and they got something going. So his minutes could be up and down a little bit. And even from last season, like that what I had mentioned, 11 points, 7 rebounds, it could be south of that. It could be lower just because the Raptors are going to be changing and adjusting and trying so many different things early on that maybe Kem's minutes won't always be as consistent as they should have been, perhaps, or as they could be as compared to last season. But he's going to be steady. He knows what he has to do, and he's going to keep on doing it, which is a great thing to see. But on the Raptors rebounding, because we know that they're bad at it and they've been bad at it for a long time. Are you concerned about it at all?
No, I feel like I've just accepted that no matter who's on the court, their defensive philosophy will be to run back in transition and stop the opposition's basket. Like they're not the type to linger after shot attempts. They are running away from the rebound usually. So, I feel like they only changed that game plan. Like I feel like if you look at the Raptors bench, every basket attempt, you see Bjorkgren telling them to get the hell back. Like, what do you, don't ball watch, start running. So I think that's just their philosophy under Nick Nurse. So, and unless I've noticed sometimes he'll tell them within like a present scenario in a particular game, he may tell them, hey, get the rebound to fit that scenario, but otherwise they're running away from the basket after shot attempts.
That's funny. They're running away from the ball.
Literally running away. Yeah.
That's good times. I think they're going to be better just because they're going to have more size. Maybe they don't have more 7-footers, but more athleticism is going to help. Right. And, that 2-point guard lineup that they did a lot last season with Fred and Kyle, great defensively. But, when it comes to rebounding, 6'1" is 6'1". And that's just kind of what it is. But having more size across the board is going to help. And then, when Kem is in a position where he's going to be, switching, or if he's going to be contesting shots, having guys with, 6'9" and 6'8" behind you, as opposed to someone who's 6'5", 6'4", obviously it's going to help a lot.
Yeah.
Anything else on Kem, or
no, I think that's everything with Kem Birch. The fact that he stayed on such a bargain was like, and didn't even listen to other deals and everything. That was something. We're not used to that as Raptors fans. We're like,
I know.
What?
His agent said that he turned down offers that would have given him more money. That could just be an agent being an agent. 6.3 million per season. So who knows? But maybe, right? Like it was a good sample size that he was given, and that he had with the Raptors, and it kind of showed what his potential was. And he's been preaching that I always had this. I just need the opportunity. So maybe it was, but I'm excited for him. I think he's going to do what his job is, and that's all you can really ask for from a player in his position. Another guy who is going to be kind of dealing with some higher expectations and trying to deal with, being a more consistent player is Chris Boucher, the new power forward for the first 6 weeks or so of the Raptors season. So with Chris, we saw him have a lot of games that were just really impressive. Like he had a string of where it was like, double doubles and 20 and 10s. And that was, at the center position. We don't know where he's going to be necessarily this year. It seems like it's going to be a lot of power forward, and also they're preaching positionless. So who knows who's going to be the center exactly? It could just, I guess, be the person who's tallest on the court, whatever it's going to be. But now he's going to this year, and he's talked a lot about being a bit more consistent on the defensive end. He wants to, be less jumpy, I suppose. And that comes with, having a better understanding of what's coming, the tendencies of the players coming at him. So what do you feel about Chris this year? What do you want to see from him those first 6 weeks or so with Pascal out, I guess, on the offensive end?
For Chris, I think that what he said is pretty accurate. Offensively, he is golden. He's such a unique player. At his height, no one can really block his shot. He's a willing shooter, which is something that's always needed on the Raptors. And maybe too willing, but I think that he offensively he's perfectly fine. Defensively, that's what is the issue with keeping him on the court for extended periods of time. Players catch on. They know that he's reactive. It's on the scouting report. They know that he's going to jump at any given attempt, even though he doesn't have to. He's like 7-something. Like you don't need to leap every time a guard attempts a three. It doesn't make any sense. So
it does look cool though when he blocks those 3-point shots. I will say,
it's great. Yeah, great
for his IG gallery.
Those stories, it's like 30 clips of the same play. So no, he's 100% correct. It's just the defensive end, increasing his IQ. I think he improved as a team defender last season. I feel like I saw less frustrating mistakes. It was just the leaping at the shot attempts, which I kind of begun to accept as just like a part of his playing personality. But I would love to see him curb that aspect of his game, and he's just going to see more extended minutes on the court because he's like a great player to have present there. So that's it.
It's a contract year for him too, so there's a lot riding on this season. The Raptors gave him a hefty raise based off of what other contract that he's gotten his NBA career, and his story actually is pretty incredible regardless of all of this, that he's been able to build himself to a player who's making 6-7 million, and now probably this next contract should be a little bit higher. But with him now, because it seems like he's going to be playing more power forward, and there's just different expectations on the offensive end. I find with that, if he's not necessarily the guy who's going to be rolling to the bucket as much, who's going to be doing the pick and pops, he's going to have to diversify his offense just a bit. And I think he's been working on it, being more of a dribbler. Not that you want to do him doing that all the time, because that's not a good idea, but he's going to have to be able to, make a few dribbles from the 3-point line and try and make a shot, right? That's stuff that has to be perhaps in his arsenal if he wants to get that hefty payday coming up here. And it would be interesting to see if he's able to do that, and what he's been working on in the off season, because that's going to be a big one for him.
Yeah, I would love for him to become like that kind of mid-range pick and pop guy like Serge was. We already know he can do that on the perimeter, but to see him
Yeah.
perhaps do it closer to the basket, that would be really cool because he's like over 7 feet tall. It's going to be hard for anyone to contest that.
Because the center position it's a bit different this year with Precious being there and Kem still being kind of new with the Toronto Raptors, although he is really smart and he has a really good rapport with Nick Nurse. But early on, this is going to be an important time for Chris because, like you had mentioned, with Pascal out, I mean, you don't want to fall too behind in the standings. Like I was looking at some of their opponents and would not be surprised if they're a little bit below 500 when Pascal comes back because there's some tough games and it's a big moment for him. Like they're going to need point production from him. It's going to be really, really important. And also they're trying to implement new offense strategies, different players, because this is a very different roster compared to last season. So it's going to be a critical time for Chris. And he's going to be able to put his stamp on his impact on the roster and the team this year early on. Anything else on Chris, or once again, should we proceed?
Yeah, let's proceed. I think I said everything Chris related. I was talking about it yesterday too. I'm like Chris out.
Chris out.
I spent a while talking about him yesterday.
I mean, that's a good thing, right? You're getting your reps in, I suppose.
Chris is dope. Chris is dope.
Raptors expert. Let's talk Precious. All right. So Precious, a player that it seems like the Raptors really did want, not just in that Heat trade, the sign and trade for Kyle Lowry, but the Raptors were very interested in just having Precious and specifically Masai Ujiri. He wanted Precious on the roster. He wanted him back in 2022, but things didn't work out that way. And Precious said that when they saw each other after the deal became finalized, Precious said, finally. And Masai was like, you're mine now.
At the press conference. I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, which that's cool. Saying you're mine now is like, okay, well, anyway, I'm not going to go down that path, but intriguing player, right? And Nick Nurse has been speaking his praises a lot, especially past few days, saying that he has more in his arsenal than he had thought, and that there aren't too many things he can't do. I'd push back on that a little bit because his hands aren't the best, but he is an interesting player, 22 years old, and there's so much going for him already. And he already has some of those raw abilities with his athleticism that a lot of the other players, just like a Scotty Barnes, OG, had when they entered the NBA. And so he's going to be effective in some capacity. I would think it's just about how much. So what are your expectations for Precious?
Precious is, I'm not surprised that Nick Nurse is a huge fan already. Like, I think he said yesterday in his press conference that Precious is someone who's going to be in the thick of things like right away. So I'm not surprised. I saw him at Summer League. He is the type of player who just fills in the gaps in the offense really well. He's just always happens to be in the right place for, he'll catch it and dunk it. He always seems to just be in the correct positioning. I think that's just a testament to his IQ on the court. Some players just are always maximizing where they are. They always know where they can benefit the team on the offense. They always know where it looks a little empty on the court. So I think that he's the perfect type of player for this roster. Outside of the top scorers, you need those guys to it's actually a skill that I want to see Gary Trent improve on too. So I feel like Gary Trent, someone who needs high usage. I want to see him be that efficient, productive player on lower usage as well. I wouldn't be surprised either if we see Precious, immediately heading into the season getting significant minutes.
Oh, you went to Summer League, right?
Yeah. I got to see Precious. He was consistently, like, every night putting out ridiculous numbers. Like, it was actually insane at some points.
There was a particular play that I remember from one of the games. I can't remember who it was, but it was towards the end of a game, and he did a contest around the free throw line, and then the player passed the ball just under the basket, and then he like sprinted over and he contested that. And I was just like, that's a crazy kind of athleticism that you can't teach. Either you have that or you don't, and he has it. So the Raptors love projects. That's kind of their thing, that they love taking players that just have this natural athleticism and abilities that you can't really teach. And then they're like, okay, let me help you become a better dribbler. Let me help you with your jump shot. Let me help you have more presence on the court and understand angles on offense and defense. And he's a great project for the Raptors because the upside is massive. And I'm keen to see how he can kind of carve out a role for himself off that bench, because we know Malachi Flynn, again, another great prospect that the Raptors have, and that he had a really good rookie year, but he's going to need help, right?
Oh yeah, he needs he needs that big man to be kind of an extension of himself. I think Kyle needed that with his starting big man. I think that Fred needed it less, because I feel like he leans more towards being a shooting guard. But Malachi, he's like a traditionalist point guard. He's a guy who wants to pass. You know, I saw it in Summer League as well. He wants to get other guys going. It's what he's looking to do when he catches the ball. So I would love to see Malachi, Precious, and Scotty develop like really good bench chemistry, be like kind of a new bench mob situation, because I think that they have the potential. And throw in Utah there too. They have like a very interesting collection of players that can really, I feel like, just wipe out other bench units.
And they should, right? That should be their goal. That was one of the things that I wrote down for Malachi yesterday, is like, be the leader of the bench. In some capacity, maybe Goran Dragic obviously could factor into that, or some of the starters and some spot minutes, but like, win your minutes, be like the constant that, you know, anyway, things go with the starters, like, we are going to be the people that are going to win our, 18 minutes or so. We're going to be a plus. And that would be a great thing for the Raptors. And Precious is a huge part of that. As Eric Flynn has pointed out, Malachi is one of the best pick and roll point guards in the nation. And Precious is a good person for him to have alongside him.
He was in college. He was easily the best pick and roll prospect, I think, in the draft. That was one of his high points. His pick and roll mastery was just very advanced for being a college player. So I would love to see that translate onto the court, especially since that's not Fred's strong point. So for him to have like a Malachi to balance that out, it would really help out.
No question. A bit of snarl to his game is what Precious said. I have a bit of snarl to my game. And so Nick said that. He's like, I got a bit of snarl. And Precious was like, I like to throw the first punch in games. So love that kind of stuff. Love him pointing at dudes when he dunks on them. That's all good stuff. We could use some of that. Yep. Speaking of players who've been dunked on, let's move on to Utah Watanabe.
Oh no.
I didn't want to do that. That was not intentional, but I mean, we can't not address that Anthony Edwards dunk, because, oh boy. Wow.
No, I've already forgotten it. Like, why did you mention it? I didn't even remember it. And then you
Sorry. Utah's such a nice guy, and like the Raptors crowd, being in Toronto specifically, they're gonna love him. Obviously, he's not guaranteed to make the team, but it would be kind of surprising if he didn't. So
yeah, I would.
Yeah, as our final person that we talk about on the podcast is Utah. Okay, so at the end of last season, Nick had said that he wanted Utah to become like pretty much unconscious from three. He shot 40% last year, which is very, very good. In April, it was 45%, which again, very, very good. But then, May was like 37. The March was like 38. So you want to find that consistency, and that would be a great step for him. And if he, even if he just does that, right, his impact on the court in other ways is going to make him a constant in the roster or in the rotation.
Yeah, I agree. And I can see why Nick would say that, because if Utah was to become just a sniper from the perimeter, he would be easily one of the most valuable role players in the NBA. Like, you consider his sneaky passing ability that he already has, his defensive versatility, his defensive discipline that he already has, that everyone's always praising. Like, he's not somebody who's going to jump at a shot attempt. When you consider all those things, that's an easy way for him to become one of the top role players.
One of the metrics that's tracked is like miles ran per game. And actually Fred is one of the highest players in the NBA in that category. But I wonder what like Utah would be during his time, because he's like constantly sprinting. You don't see that a lot. He's like nonstop running. He plays like 20 minutes or 18 minutes and he's gassed. I'm gassed watching him. And it's a quality that you can't really teach, and it's something that is very valuable as a player coming off the bench. And the fact that he's willing to accept his role, that this is what I do. I'm a 3-point shooter. I drive to the bucket sometimes. I'm a cutter, and I play like a crazy amount of defense. That is what I want to do. That's how I want to help the team. And having players that are willing to do that, just like I think Scotty Barnes is going to be able to do this year, is that they're so devoted to winning, and they're accepting that is the first thing that they want to do. They want to help out the team. That would be massive. And if he is able to raise his 3-point shooting percentage like up to 42 or something like that, even though it was 40 last year, which was great. But if you get up there like Danny Green when he was in Toronto in that one season, he was at 45%.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
For the regular season. Yeah. That would be amazing, right? Like become like unconscious, become like an absolute bucket from anytime he gets a 3-point shot. That would just be so cool.
Yeah. That would just change him into, we may not be able to afford him if he does something like that.
He's outlined that he does want to, be less hesitant with his offensive game. He mentioned that today, actually, during his media avail, that last year he was thinking about didn't want to do the wrong thing. That's again wanting to impress his coach, make his team happy. But part of his learning is that he has to realize that him driving and looking for his shot a little bit, even his version, because he's not going to go out of his way with it. He's not going to be Chris Boucher when he's trigger happy. It's going to be like, you're just going to take a few more shots per game. Like it's going to help what they do on the offensive end, because he is such a good passer. And so if you're able to draw a few defenders, because he's pretty quick, pretty agile at his size, it's going to help the Raptors a lot. So once again, anything else on Utah, or are we wrapping up this pod?
Yeah. What do we have left? Scotty?
We covered Scotty yesterday. Are there any other players?
Okay.
But are there players that you do want to talk about? Because we got Freddie G, we got Ishmael, Sam Decker, Reggie. Those are guys that I thought we could, maybe talk about next week when we get some preseason games. But if you want to talk about Freddie or Ish, I'm game.
No. I want to see preseason games with those guys. I saw them in summer league, and I saw a lot of good things. But I want to get some preseason runs to see what those guys look like and what they look like with the guaranteed rotation players. So let's keep that for next week.
Actually, while I have you, because you are here, Ish, right? Because I didn't get a good look at him myself during summer league, and you kind of see the physical tools like a lot of the players that the Raptors have brought in. But what did you see from summer league?
The energy on the defensive end was insane. Like I feel like he's scared of the opposition's players at some points. Like he's diving for the ball. He is like, he's all hands on deck, which I think I think Nick Nurse would love that for like an end of bench guy, or even like a G League guy. I would not be surprised.
Great to hear. He's going to be a PJ Tucker type. Could use a few of those on the team. It seems like they have a lot of them, but his physical tools, again, we keep on talking about that, are very impressive. I'm not sure if anyone's going to be able to back him down because he is so strong. But we'll touch on some other dudes later on. Yasmin, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you all for listening for another episode of the Raptors Over Everything podcast, and we will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.